The one thing about Lake St. Clair that I don't think a lot of the guys like is it's so hard to make up ground if you have one bad day. There's
Yeah.
just so many 4 to 5 pound class fish that if you do fall 2 or 3 pounds behind.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Hook One Pod. We're here at Hook One Bait and Tackle in the studio. As always, I'm Pete.
And I'm Louis.
Holy cow.
Starting this one off hot.
Oh my God, almost went down right away. Sorry about that. Anyway, that's why we weren't here last week, as a matter of fact. My health has not been great. I don't know what's going on, but I'm better now. Strong as a bull, and I'm not worried. I think it's the shows, dude.
It is. The show's
If you guys are
destroyed.
sick, stop coming to the shows because I'm going down with you. But we
It's-
do want to see you at the show, so I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just deadly when you walk in there.
Dude, it's just a lot. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of interactions, a lot of germs. But anyway, we are back. We're switching it up a little bit. Louis wanted to switch it up this week, and I am totally on board with it. So we're gonna build up a little bit of Louis, why don't you tell them what we're gonna talk about? We're gonna build up a little hype for your boys.
We're going to talk about Bassmasters.
That's it. They start next weekend.
Elites do, yep.
Yeah, the Elite
Yep.
Series. The Elite Series starts next weekend. There's an open event going on right now as we're recording this. So when you hear this, there'll be 2 open events that are already finished, correct?
Yes, and you can watch live now on Bassmaster Open Saturday.
Yeah, and Saturdays you can watch live,
Top 10.
which is fun. I mean, we always make the jokes about bass fishing and stuff like that, but honestly, the Elite Series they are the top of the top. In our industry, and as far as professionals go, they are the professional
And
fishermen.
they proved it last weekend.
They
proved why, actually.
big time,
Yeah.
record-breaking performances on Lake Okeechobee. Some really, really cool stuff actually down in Florida. Some family ties. We're gonna get into all of it. But we just wanted to switch it up a little bit, and I actually liked what Louis thought about it. I haven't even brought it up to Louis, but I think this is gonna lead into another conversation in the next couple weeks, probably on the NWT and just touching on a lot more of the professional events that are going on around us. Just to get, for those of you that don't know, just to give you an idea. What's going on, because like for the Bassmaster Elites, or not the Elites, but for the Bassmaster, the Opens, like anybody can fish those. I'm trying to convince Louis to fish the one on St. Clair in July.
Yeah, the off-limits period is
The month, yeah,
tough.
so you can't fish for a month on that waterway or any connecting waterways. So basically anything that connects to Lake St. Clair, which is the heart of the Great Lakes.
everything I like to fish that time of the year. So
Unless Louis turns into an inland water fisherman, I just don't see that happening. But it's cool, man. It gives a lot of people an opportunity. Sometimes the elite guys dip themselves in, which we saw last weekend, which was pretty cool. So it's really cool to see that. I've got my handy dandy notes right here, and we're going to touch on where these tournaments are going to be. So it's starting next weekend. For the Elite Series, it's going to start next weekend down in Toledo Bend, and then they go back to back down in Texas, and they go from Toledo Bend to Lake Fork, which is actually pretty sick. The back to back is pretty cool that you can watch them a couple weekends in a row.
well, it's gonna go from, I think, a tough tournament at Toledo Bend to an absolute whack fest on Lake Fork.
Yeah, Lake Fork's got a lot of hype. There's a lot of really good fishing, a lot of big fish, and a lot of those guys down there just know how to catch them, dude.
Yeah, you guys can sign up for Bassmaster Fantasy too.
Bassmaster Fantasy. I was watching Louis play it last year. I think I would get absolutely destroyed.
You can start your own. You can start a Hook One.
Whoa!
You can start a Hook One group.
If we have enough interest, if we get enough people that are like, I'd think about it, I would do it. I would do
Got to
it.
be in by Wednesday of next week.
Wednesday of next week.
Locks in.
We can do that. So, and then after that, so they go back to back in Texas, and then they come back in April. April 11th, they start in Harris Chain. They go for a weekend in Harris Chain, and then they go back to the St. John River in Florida. Another back to back.
Both in Florida.
Yeah, both in Florida. So that'll be really cool to see that event. Now, they're not going to Okeechobee where they did that open.
But if you look at the patterns of Bassmaster, you look at where they go for the Bassmaster Opens.
Yep.
And 90% of the time they go back there the next year for the Elite Series.
Yep, sets it all up because the
So,
Open's
like,
just a smaller stage. You know what I mean?
it's actually bigger.
Well,
Well, a bit more
more
boats. More
boats,
boats.
more boats,
Yep.
less publicity. I would say.
Yep. So, like, if you
218 boats on Okeechobee
yeah.
last weekend.
So if you look at, like, where the Opens go, like new lakes, like Leech Lake in Minnesota, that could be one where they go next year.
I somebody told me the 2025 schedule, and I knew it wasn't out yet. But the schedule that they saw had an insane northern swing on it, which included Leech Lake.
Yeah.
It included Wisconsin. It included us and 2 in New York. Now, I don't think that they would do 5 northern swings, especially because they weighed huge bags in St. Clair and the big waves scared them off. But that's fine. I'm just a hater. I'm just kidding. You can't do. It's hard to do it back to back. You got to hit new lakes every year for the most part.
Leech Lake would be insane because nobody had. Seth Fider would dominate, I think.
Yeah, that would be
Because
awesome.
it's a largemouth northern lake.
Yeah, which is unheard of.
Yeah,
it's very different.
That's why they're going to that one. And then I heard the Mississippi River's on the Bass Open schedule, but I didn't look too far into that.
That'd be interesting.
I think it is. But
I didn't pull up the Open schedule. I just pulled up the Elite Series schedule. But while Louis finishing that, they're going to go to Lake Murray, which is in South Carolina. They got Wheeler Lake in Alabama, and then they go back down there a couple weeks later down to Smith Lake in Alabama. And then they're going to come back up for their northern swing and hit Lake Champlain and the St. Lawrence River. They typically hit those 2 in New York all the time. So Texas, Florida, South Carolina, Alabama, and New York is where they're going to be this year. And I think a lot of them are going to, obviously St. Lawrence is going to be a pound fest after what we saw last year. I think it's going to be really good again this year. I think Harris Chain, they struggled at Harris Chain last year, but they had a horrible cold front.
Yeah, Harris Chain's a tough one. It's a lot of live scope plays into it.
Yeah.
And one of the only Florida lakes, I should say.
I was going to say that's not typical for them guys down south. And that was a big thing last year. Like, so we're obviously up here, so we enjoy seeing that. But not 90, but I would say 70% of bass viewers are southern.
Yeah.
Southern anglers. So for those southern guys to see these guys come up north and just sit on live scope on the Great Lakes and be scoping for fish, and doing that, I don't think that they really liked that, which again was interesting to me because I thought the bags were big, but it does make sense.
It's crazy because that's how the Bass Open just got won.
What?
Live scope.
Oh, huh.
On Okeechobee.
Yeah, we're getting ready to touch on that. What do you got?
All right, so they go to Lake Okeechobee, Santee Cooper, Lake Hartwell, Lake Ouachita, which is right now.
Yep.
Logan Martin Lake, Lake Eufaula, Lake St. Clair, Leech Lake, and the Mississippi River, and La Crosse. So that's
Wisconsin?
That's the Wisconsin term.
That was another one I heard. The thing I was reading said La Crosse is going to be one of the elite stops in 2025. So imagine that, dude. Imagine Leech Lake, La Crosse, Lake St. Clair, and then the 2 New York lakes. That would be a sick northern swing, but they're only running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 events. I think it'd be pretty hard. I really do think it'd be really hard for the elites to go over more than half of their events in the northern swing. We'll see.
It's tough because they always drop mega bags up here. So
they drop mega bags, and because they don't come up here all the time, which I'm not saying that they don't get great crowds down south, but because they don't come here all the time, they get insane crowds. Like, I couldn't believe how many people went to Brandenburg Park on Lake St. Clair. Like, it is a beautiful park and stuff, but for us, it is what it is. And those guys on the elites loved it. They loved that they loved everything about that location. They loved the weigh-in, besides running their lower units into the rocks.
Yeah.
They liked everything else about it. So I was really excited for it. Now they make everything so far in advance, the schedules and stuff. It makes sense that they didn't go back to back, but I'm willing to bet they'll be back here next year.
Yeah. The one thing about Lake St. Clair that I don't think a lot of the guys like is it's so hard to make up ground if you have one bad day. There's just so many 4 to 5 pound class fish that if you do fall 2 or 3 pounds behind, it's tough to get one of those 6, 7 pounders to kind of make up ground.
Right.
You're
And
you're only going ounces at a time instead of pounds.
right. And you know what I thought was interesting? That is very true. Another thing I thought was interesting was like our Lake St. Clair event was in July. They don't have a single July event.
No.
June 27th, and the next one's August 8th. So I think it's really interesting because that's a big thing, man. That's why they're starting in February. Guess who's not bass fishing in February?
Yeah.
Us. So it's nice because they can extend their season because they're not doing a ton of fishing down in Florida in August because it's just too hot. Florida, Texas, Alabama, it's just too hot. So now they can come up here and get on fantastic smallmouth bites. But it is really cool to see that.
Yeah, their schedule is always pretty good. It's almost all year you can turn on a Bassmaster tournament on the weekend and it's
Yeah.
pretty good.
What's always interesting and tough is when they are down south this time of year, weather even down there is unpredictable, and it seems like those cold fronts really take a toll on those tournaments and on those fish, because they're just not used to that kind of cold.
Yeah.
And it's like spawning. You were mentioning like it's spawning. Like the pre-spawn bite on Okeechobee was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Catching them on beds right now is
Let's
insane.
get into it. Come on, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. So last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago now.
2 weeks ago, Scott Martin went and did something on Okeechobee that's never been done before. He weighed 90
pounds, 6 ounces.
90 pounds, 6 ounces for 3 days, right?
Yeah, 3 days.
Yeah, just an unbelievable. A couple days, he had 2 9-pounders in his live well, like 2 different days over the weekend. It was an unbelievable performance on his home water. They haven't been back to Clewiston. So the Open Series they've been to Okeechobee, but they haven't been back to Clewiston in 33 years, I believe it is. Last time they were in Clewiston, the person that won it was Scott Martin's dad, Roland Martin.
And the tournament was held out of Roland Martin Marine.
Yeah. So it's just, it's such a cool, for us, for like the fishing nerds, it's really cool for like all that to just tie back together, and then for Scott to just go and drop a bag like that on his home lake. Because like more often than not, like you see guys have really good days on their home lakes, but you'll see a lot of guys dud on their home lakes because they're so confident. He killed it.
Yeah, everybody kind of knew where it was going to be won. There was 2 places. I think it was Harney Pond and South Pond. And I mean, if you've seen like the aerial pictures Bass Nation took, it was ridiculous. Like Scott Martin
It was sick, dude. It was sick.
He was just power pulled down with like 70 boats around him
for hours.
Yeah, he picked up his.
You read that? What was that stat?
He picked up his poles 2 to 4 times a day.
That's it. 8 hours of fishing, basically.
So basically
7 hours of fishing.
You're basically throwing an anchor down for 3 hours at a time before you pick it up, and then you move 30 feet and drop it back down.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's insane.
And go into a little bit too, because it seems like you were watching the video yesterday. It just dropped and I missed it. But kind of how he was targeting those fish and how patient he was. So patient to capitalize on a lot of big fish because he would sight fish.
Yeah, well, not sort of sight.
Not
fish.
really. Yeah, I guess that's not the way to go ahead.
So Lake Okeechobee is high, I believe. I think the lake is high
for now. We'll get into that later too.
Yeah, that brings up a different topic, but it's high.
Really pisses me off. But anyway.
So the lake is dirty after all the winds they had in practice. So he turned his live scope to perspective mount, which basically just means you can see in shallow water, but it's like 180 degrees. And he was watching fish come into reed heads and stumps like 30, 40 feet away, watching them make a bed. And then he'd flip at them an hour later after they get comfortable.
He was fishing like 3 foot of water, wasn't it? Something like that. He was fishing 3 foot of water over stumps and reeds.
Yeah, so you'd watch him. He'd either pull up and see him on beds, or watch him come in and make a bed, and then cast to him after an hour or 2 when they get comfortable. So all he was doing was moving his trolling motor like this. And he'd find one like 10 feet away, cast at it, and then work his way out to like 60 feet, and then pick up his power poles and move 30 feet and anchor down again.
Yeah, it's just nuts, man. The quality of fish he caught, and then like you said with the aerial photos, but there's boats all around him. all around them. And I mean, that's the benefit of fishing your local lake and being a local stick. But still, to be able to put that kind of performance together with that many people was nuts, because it wasn't even close. Like, I don't even think second place was within.
I think it was like a 30-pound difference.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it was at least 20.
Or 20 or 30-pound difference.
And then,
something stupid.
After second, it was close. Like second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, they were all close. They were all fishing their own tournament, and Scott was just kind of doing his own thing. And that's kind of what, I was mentioning about how just anyone can kind of jump into these opens, and it's cool because, when is it? The open is in July 11th, correct?
Yeah.
So like the elites don't have any tournaments. So I would not be surprised to see a couple of those northern sticks, like if the Johnson brothers jumped in.
I'm sure Jeff Gustafson will be in one.
Yes. So it'll be really interesting to see that. And it's cool, me and Louie were talking about it. I think for those guys, for guys like Scott and those elite guys that come down into these open series events, I think it's the best way for them to like the best thing that they can do for their sponsors.
Yeah.
Because they're showing everybody like, yo, anybody can go do this. You know what I mean? But you've got to have the know-how and the wherewithal, I guess, because like Scott, he's fished so many different spots, so many different lakes, but he knows Okeechobee's his home.
I think that his biggest advantage was he was going in there trying to win. He wasn't going in there trying to save and make points for the rest of the year. Everybody was just trying to make it by and kind of save their points and not get a bad finish.
Yeah, and by points, it's like, for you guys that don't know, it every tournament, you get awarded a certain number of points depending on what place you finish. And then at the end of the year, it depends how many points you have. So it's almost like your average finish in a tournament. But the reason that's important is because these guys that are fishing these open series events, they're not, I mean, they're still, they are considered, they're amateurs technically, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're not pros.
Right. So and you do have some guys that fish the opens that are sponsored and they're working, but in order to get to the elites, you got to get through the opens. Do you want to explain that a little bit? How many different brackets there are?
Yeah, so there's
in the Bassmaster and all that.
So there's 3 divisions for the Bassmaster Opens. There's the Northern Swing, the Mid Swing, and then the Southern Swing.
Yep.
And to qualify for the Bassmaster Elite Series, you have to fish all 9, and you have to be in the top 10 at the end of the year. Or is it top 7? It's like top 7 or top 10.
Yeah.
So throughout the year, you're competing with, I think it's usually like 100 people that fish all 9, and then the other 100 in the tournament.
Brutal.
Jackpot.
Yeah. To fish all 9, like I was telling Louie, like for someone to make this dream a reality is insanely hard. It's so expensive. I mean, I think it's
actually it's top 5.
Top 5. Yeah, well, it's $25,000 just to do. It's like 23,000 something, just to do the 9 events.
Yeah,
and that's just your entry fees. Now you have to pre-fish. You've got gas. You've got hotels. You've got travel, because someone like us, if you're gonna go fish the Southern Swing, you know what I mean. Like, and you're gonna be down there, and then you come back up for a little bit, and then you go back down there. So it's tough. Anyone with like a real job, like a career, it's very hard to do. Unless you have some sort of flexibility, even for people like us that have flexibility, where it's like, all right, Louie, yeah, you can have time off, and then you're going to work, all month next month, and we'll be good.
Yeah.
Right. And then, like, even then, it's still impossible. And I don't know, man, it is really interesting to see those guys make it to the top. It's no wonder why they get so emotional and it's such a serious process.
Yeah, it's nuts. And a lot of the kids that are like making it now are like my age. I think 3 of the kids that made it into the Elite Series this year are like, I think ages 23 to 25.
Yeah, bro, it's getting younger. Like, it's getting a lot younger. And
Tucker Smith is 21, 22 actually. So if he makes it, he'll be the youngest to ever make it.
He's doing well, right?
Yeah, he came in second behind Scott at the first Open.
I haven't looked today. I'm scared to switch off this screen, but I know, well, they should be doing weigh-ins. You want to check where they're at today in the Open Series?
I think it's too early still.
4 o'clock?
Yeah.
I know, we're doing a late podcast. We're so used to doing these in the morning, and now all of a sudden it's like, it's almost closing time. It's been a busy day.
Yeah, weigh-ins happening right now.
So, You'll be able to see what's going on. I mean, by the time you guys see this, it'll already be done, so it doesn't matter anyway. But it is really cool to follow along, and again, follow a lot of these guys. Now you got to understand a lot of the advice they're giving and a lot of the baits that they're talking about, rods and reels and all that stuff, is all kind of sponsor driven, which is fine because if you like using those products, then you should find a pro that's using those products and follow along with them because it really is cool. And there's a lot of awesome content. The tournament is good content, and watching the fishing on the water and the weigh-ins, and well, obviously the weigh-ins are electric. But watching the fishing on the water and stuff is all good content. But I would argue like the behind the scenes footage and stuff that Bass does and puts on their social media is by far their best.
Yeah, some of it is nuts. Like just kind of watching the drone footage and like everything you don't see on live. Live is nice though because you get to see exactly what they're using.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. I remember trying to figure out what Taku was using when he was up here.
Yeah, Taku.
And they keep that bait, they keep that drop shot right in their hand.
Taku is one of the
But those are all JDM. Well, not even JDM. Those are just Japanese products that we can't even wrap our minds around, that's the really interesting thing, guys. Like, especially if you're tuning in and you're like just a big walleye fisherman and that's really all you do, or salmon fish or whatever. If you tune into bass fishing, we've said the stat before on here, but more people bass fish in the world than they do anything else combined. There's more people in the world bass fishing than doing anything else. That's a stat. It's a fact. So when you're watching these guys, whether it's and typically the elites are the ones to get their hands on this stuff first, but you see all different stuff from different countries, different baits. You know, a lot of the times these guys will win an event and then Berkeley or whoever Northland or whoever's making that product releases it the next year because they're winning the event on prototypes. That is a super, super cool part about watching bass fishing that we don't typically see, especially like it's a totally different monster.
It's nuts. Even seeing some of the Credge almost won a tournament last year.
Yeah, which we saw that thing this year and we're like, what the hell?
Yeah, nobody even knew it was a thing last year.
No, and that's typically how it goes. Is like these guys, and I know like prototypes are always used, and a lot of times you'll see them in like YouTube videos and stuff, but rarely will you see them be put in a tournament and put to use like that. And like a lot of these baits that are coming out have championships behind them before they're even on the shelf.
Yeah, like Ben Milliken's, I think it's like the Juggle Minnow or something.
Something like that.
6th Sense just came out with it. And
what was it called? I think it was.
The Juggle Minnow, I think. It's like a hover rig bait, but that's what he won his tournament on at Toledo Bend.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been fishing well too. But it's just you don't see like as much as I love walleye fishing, and I truly do love walleye fishing, and I think the bass market's its own thing. But when you sit there from a tournament perspective and from an angler's perspective, and you look at how the pros do it, how the industry does it, I mean, the Bassmaster just seems like it really is a head and shoulders above right now any other competition.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it's the walleye market. I mean, obviously they're not competing against those big billfish tournaments. I would say that's like the only other tournaments that are really giving the Bassmaster a run for their money, which is crazy because you think about all the professional sports that are out there and how they all have different leagues and different this and different that. And it's Bassmaster. And I'm talking like the entire fishing industry. You've got Bassmaster and then the billfish tournaments. Yeesh. And then you've got MLF, MWT, or NWT, MWC.
Well, the MPFL was a big one this year, too.
Yeah, that's true. And then you've got the Toyota Series, which is a part of the MLF. So there are a lot of different like divisions, but it's clearly the Bassmaster. There's nothing in the walleye world that even competes to it yet. I mean, I hope it gets there. I know like those guys that did tour level gold and stuff on YouTube, like that was a really cool thing, but that's not directly tied into the NWT. The MWC really doesn't do anything, it doesn't seem like, as far as like that type of recognition and branding and stuff like that. And it's a good circuit. But they're just nothing like what the Bassmaster is. Nothing. Their sponsorship, and I don't think they ever will be. I don't think you're ever going to find that sponsorship money and that loyalty that the Bassmaster has. I don't.
No, I mean there's 3 main like professional bass fishing circuits now. It's like MLF, Bassmaster, and the MPFL.
And MLF we'll see.
Yeah, they're cut and go.
They're cutting their field. They're cutting. Guys are getting cut from pro staffs, and I don't know. It's a weird. I don't really understand the behind the scenes. You know more of that. I followed enough of the drama when it split from Bass to MLF, and I was like, all right, this is annoying.
It's yeah. A lot of it is. It doesn't need to be
Politics, man.
Yeah.
Politics. You put politics into anything. If you guys take anything from this podcast, it's this one. You put politics into anything, and it's ruined.
The NPFL went bankrupt last year.
That's good.
And now they're back.
Yeah, baby. Bankruptcy's a beautiful thing.
And their payouts are $100,000 for first place again after going bankrupt. So
bankruptcy's a beautiful thing when you're a business. You just file bankruptcy and it's like nothing happened. You credit. Well, even then, if it, like a company like that's not directly tied in, it's not too bad. Not too bad. Talk about something a little serious as we talk about all this tournament stuff, because it really bums me out. I know it bums you out. I know the bass world is in a tiff. I know the saltwater world is in a tiff. And it all goes down to Lake Okeechobee. So we're going to just touch on it real quick, guys. For those of you guys that don't know either, I highly suggest following Captains for Clean Water. Where their sticker? There they are. Up there somewhere. All right, doesn't matter. There's a sticker right there. This is Captains for Clean Water. But anyway, guys, those guys work really hard to keep the ocean clean, because it doesn't matter what goes on. There's so much life out there. In Okeechobee is a hot spot for where Big Sugar is really who it is. But they pump so much nutrients into the ground and into the soil for the sugar that they're killing the water, and it all runs off into Lake Okeechobee. And then they have a dam system at Lake Okeechobee, which they release this water, and it goes into two rivers, the St. Lucie River and the, I can't even say it, the Chattahoochee. Something like that. Calahoochee. But anyway, it's if you guys have ever heard of red tide, or if you've ever been down to the Gulf of Mexico and witnessed the red tide, or you felt it in your lungs, and it's like, oh my God, why is it so hard to breathe? It's because they're releasing all this water with all these nutrients, and it's causing these algae to bloom that literally sucks the oxygen out of the water and kills all these fish. Now, it's a huge problem that's going on down there. It's a huge Florida problem, and finally, it's being highlighted because obviously we're freshwater fishermen, especially being up here. Like, we have our own issues on the Great Lakes, like Nestle stealing our water and whatnot. Yeah, you heard that, Nestle. But anyway, with all that stuff going on, so like we've got our own problems, obviously, but this is a problem that's going to infect the entire planet, because it's going to start in the Gulf of Mexico and it's going to continue to go, and you know how bad it is.
Yeah, there's another one. I think Scott Martin runs it. It's Anglers for Lake O. That's a big one.
Anglers for Lake O.
Yeah,
I'm on that. I'm going to follow that, because I think that's important, man. I think supporting, like, I don't know. I don't like that. Well, it's not in our backyard, so it's not our problem. Like, it is our problem. And for me personally, like, I really love the saltwater, and I love saltwater fishing. And Louis really wants to fish Okeechobee, and he loves fishing bass and stuff down in Florida. So for us, it does kind of directly affect us. But finally, it's coming to light in the freshwater world, because tomorrow, we're recording this on a Friday. So tomorrow, they're going to discharge the lake. And it's like 600,000 gallons of this water that's going to get launched down two rivers and eventually make its way to the ocean and affect everything on the way down there. So if we could ask you guys, obviously, please support Anglers for Lake O, support Captains for Clean Water. They're doing awesome things. They're really trying to help our environment and help our water health. And I know you guys talk about that, like water health and water safety. Guys, even up here where we are on the St. Clair River, we are one bad spill away on the Canadian side or American side with all these freaking chemical plants and garbage lined up the river. We're one bad spill away from losing everything.
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you think about it.
Well, and especially like for us. Like, for us, it's scary because we have a bait shop and a charter service like that. We rely on the natural resources that are out there. And if you don't have people like Captains for Clean Water and those guys and people, Friends of the St. Clair River is a really good local group if you guys are looking for a group to support. they do a really good job making sure that the river stays clean and people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But it's scary to think, there's guides down there in Tampa that they know no matter what, tomorrow this thing's getting bursted out. So by the end of March, April, their fishery's done. And they're going to be done until June or July. They're not going to be able to catch any fish. And that's whatever fish are left. Because of the snook, the redfish, the tarpon, the sharks, a lot of the reef fish that are in on that shallow water, they take it directly. And it really it really pisses me off.
Yeah, it sucks.
Well, someone put it like this the other day. We all suffer. And the only people that benefit is Big Sugar.
Yep.
So I just don't understand. And I get it. Like, yeah, cool. Billions of dollars. Fine. You're not going to have any money when the resources are gone. And that's how I feel up here with people going into the Great Lakes and taking the water and people using the water and dumping things in the water. I mean, look how much raw sewage gets dumped in Lake St. Clair. Like Macomb and Oakland County should be punished and penalized billions of dollars for the nonsense that they do out there.
It's
disgusting. And nobody pays attention to it, man. Everybody just turns a blind eye. Now you got me rolling. But like people just turn a blind eye, and it's like, how can we turn a blind eye? If this really is what we love, because guess what? You're not going to be able to post pictures of your limits on Facebook because there's not going to be limits. And I know there's a lot of people that are listening that have been a part of this fishery after the bait crash, back in the 80s and late 80s, 90s, and how long it took our fishery to come back. Like we get to enjoy the spoils of it.
Yeah, this is the good old days.
Yes.
I mean, the fishing is nuts right now. You can go do whatever you want. Anywhere. Within 3 hours,
I would agree.
You can catch dang near anything that's freshwater. And a lot of it. And big ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only things you wouldn't be able to catch are like a white sturgeon. Grayling.
You can catch a grayling up north.
Yeah, you can. You actually can. So, like within 3 hours of here, you can literally go catch any freshwater species of fish you want, basically. That's native to the Great Lakes. Like you're not gonna be catching arapimas or whatever those things are down in the south. But
I mean, you think about it. You got kings on the west side.
Yep.
You got walleye over here, smallmouth over here, perch on Lake
everything
Simcoe.
else over here. Everything else over here. You got perch. You got and you want to talk about like world class? Yeah, you have world class fish within 3 hours from here. I mean, like it's crazy, and it's scary to think that something like this could be happening here. And if it did happen, how many of us would care? How many of us would back behind it? How many of us would fight it? And I'm scared. I don't think I truly don't know I don't know what that number would be, because for a lot of people it's always like, oh, we'll do it, and then the time comes and it's crickets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what you're seeing down in Okeechobee. Is you're seeing all these people like, shoot, if any of you guys that have Instagram, you can go on Instagram and look up Captains for Clean Water, and any one of their posts will probably have 400 comments. Keep doing good work. Keep doing good work. Keep doing good work. How many of those people are subscribed to like yearly, and they send them an annual fee? And it's like, well, what are you giving them money for? To have this stuff.
Yeah.
You can't do this stuff for free. Friends of the St. Clair River, that's our local group, so I like to highlight them, but like they can't do it for free. If they're not making money, then they can't be spending money. And if they want to be, if we want our rivers clean, because I'll tell you what, guys, there's a lot of guys out there, and it's not our listeners. Thank God. Thank God. But there's a lot of guys out there that leave garbage everywhere. I mean, you guys have all seen it. Garbage on the shorelines and just littered. And in a lot of places, if they're private property, typically they won't care. And then they'll kick you out. Now there's no fishing. Stone piles next to our shop is a perfect example. It was ruined by garbage because they would just leave their liquor bottles and beer cans and snack wrappers and bonfire nonsense. It's frustrating, dude.
Yeah, it is. It's not that hard to just pick up your trash.
No, we absolutely need to take care of the resources that right now are taking care of us. It's the most expensive free fish I've ever caught out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So seriously, guys, keep an eye on that. I really, I've been a member of Captains for Clean Water now over 5 years. Because I first found out about it down there during a red tide. I was on the beach and I literally couldn't breathe. You couldn't take a deep breath. Your lungs would burn. And you're like, what is that? And they're like, red tide. And it's like, what is red tide? And you'd see all this, you'd see fish and algae, and like, you just see the the devastation from it. And you're like, where's this coming from? And then you start doing more research, and you follow people, and you talk to people, and you meet people, and it's like, oh man, this is really messed up. This is, I won't say our little F-bomb, but it is messed up, man, that people can do that and people are getting away with it. And again, sure, that's down in Lake Okeechobee and it's down in Florida, and that might not affect you. But what it does affect is our industry, and I can promise you if it affects the industry, it's going to affect us. It's a very small industry.
Doesn't take much.
No. So check that stuff out, and if you don't care about that stuff, that's fine. Check out the Friends of the St. Clair River. Give them a like and a follow. We tell you guys all the time, likes, follows, and shares are free. So even if you do that sort of stuff and you're not paying an annual fee or whatever the situation is, because money's tight, dude. We're all going through it. You're going through it. I'm going through it. Finn's going through it over there. But I get it. There's not just a bunch of money to be handing out, and that's not what we're saying. But just awareness is all. That's all.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming to our Hook One Talk.
TED Talk.
So anyway, Louie, what else do you have to add?
Just like, share, and subscribe.
You're ending it?
Yeah, I think that's it, right?
I think so. I would like to know from our viewers before we head out. I would like to know, would any of you guys ever think about fishing a Bassmaster Open or dipping your toes into that upper echelon of fishing? Or do you prefer to fish local tournaments? What kind of tournaments do you guys fish? Louie and I have had a little idea here for a while. We've got some people wanting to work with us, so we're just kind of looking at ideas for tournaments and stuff like that, and how they're hosted. Obviously, will never be as big as the Bassmaster, but it's interesting. I'd love to know if our listeners have fished them before. I'd love to know about it, what they were like, what weigh-ins were like, what it was like getting to meet the guys, and is there any camaraderie in the bass world? Like the walleye world is weird. Like the walleye world is one of the only professional fishing where they have like teams, which I think is pretty sick because I grew up walleye fishing, but like you thought that was really weird. Like you were not cool with it.
No, that's not great. I mean, when
I have a hard time with it because you have to have somebody you trust. Otherwise, if you're giving them information, they're probably holding back some information. I don't know. I always had a weird. I understand it because it's like you can't break down the water all by yourself. But I don't know. I always feel like one of the teams is going to get the upper hand.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about the NWT is the co-angler fishes for their limit. They don't have separate limits.
Right.
So if a co-angler catches an 8-pounder, it goes towards
the
pros limit.
Which, like, I kind of get that though because it's like in the same like they're.
I get it. 100%.
What I don't get is why they switch co-anglers.
See, I think if you get paired with somebody, you should have them the whole tournament,
and then you can share a limit.
Yep.
But if you're gonna do that, see, I don't know. I feel weird about that too. I would love to have just you go out.
Yeah.
Like just these guys go out with camera boats and there is no co-angler, because we've heard stories from some of these guys that have fished NWC or NWTs and MWCs. Like they've had some co-angler nightmares. And for a guy that's sponsored, that's fishing this for a living, to get stuck with a co-angler that might not know what's going on or not really have a care in the world, like there's big money on the line. You win thousands of dollars, plus you win boats, which are tens of thousands of dollars. Well, you win tens of thousands and then the boat.
It's
So like it's a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's confusing to me. I don't quite understand it.
It's definitely different. It's definitely even like how a lot of the local tournaments are around here, and I guess even the MWT, like there's team tournaments. Like I'd be okay with that even. Like if you wanted to just get two guys and fish two guys, but it is just so weird that like, and I mean, I guess it makes it even more impressive when a pro has two different co-anglers and still wins the tournament, but still it's just weird. I don't know. It's just different for me.
Yeah.
And for a co-angler, you're kind of screwed. But that's kind of the point. You know what I mean? Like you're just learning.
Yeah. I mean,
but if you're with a good pro day one,
when they do get a good co-angler, it is fun to watch, but I don't know.
I would love to co-angle one day. or like not one day for a tournament, but one of these days, I would love to be a co-angler on a pros boat, just to talk with them and go through it and stuff like that. I always would, and I'd always be interested. Like I would never overstep the line, but I would always see how much that they would want to listen to a local. Like that always intrigues me. Like, do you know what the hell is going on, or do you rely on a little bit of information from the locals? Because a lot of these guys come in and they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, here's a rod and here's a bait. Go to the back of the boat.
Yep.
Which is insulting. That's why you should, if you're going to be doing that, you should almost just be going out by yourself, I think.
That's why I think they should take up like the Bassmaster thing, like make it a 3 fish limit for the co-angler in the back.
Well, nobody fishes with the elite guys.
No. No. I'm just saying like a Bassmaster Open.
Yeah. Well,
So make them have like their own limit in the back.
Yeah, I'm saying, hey Finn.
But I guess if you are trolling, it would make sense that you're sharing fish.
Yeah. So who knows? I don't know. I think there's gonna be a lot of changes coming up. But we'll see. The good news is it's heading in the right direction. Tournament fishing is heading in the right direction, minus the lead weights and fish. And so it'll be interesting to follow along. And I really enjoyed sitting down and talking about the Bassmasters and stuff, because when you said it yesterday, I was like, Louie, need an idea. Or not yesterday, but whatever it was, 3 days ago. I was like, Louie, need an idea. All right, we're gonna talk about Bassmasters on Friday. I'm like, no. You're like, yeah. They broke records. We have this coming up. We got this coming up. I go, yeah, you're absolute. There's a lot going on, and it's good. It's all good. It's good buzz. So, guys, if you haven't, go ahead and check out the Bassmasters on their Instagram or whatever. Follow them along. If you don't like bass fishing at all, then go follow the National Walleye Tour or the Masters Walleye Circuit. Those are two pretty cool professional tours to follow as well. We're going to touch on those on the next, not the next podcast, but one of the next podcasts.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that, and we got to do it sooner than later because they're coming up too. They got the National, actually, and the Masters. Both of them have tournaments coming up here soon, early March. So I'd really like to get a podcast in before they start that. Again, go over the schedule like we did here. I'm going to have the schedule clipped. You've probably already seen it earlier in the video, but I'm going to clip it here too. So you can see the schedule and see the dates. You can watch that stuff online. A lot of the times it goes on TV on the weekends. So check that stuff out. It's good. You learn a lot.
The elites are actually live Thursday through Sunday.
They're live the whole time?
Yeah.
But not on TV?
Nope, just on their website.
Yeah, they're on TV on the weekends or just Saturday?
Just Sunday, I believe.
Oh, that makes sense.
Tournament or championship Sunday.
Yeah, championship Sunday. Yep. So you guys will be able to check that out. Other than that, Louie, one more time for me.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah. Please like, share, and subscribe, guys. It means the world to us. We're slowly growing, and I appreciate you guys so much. You guys have been awesome to us. Hopefully, we've seen you at the open house. By the time this video comes out, the open house will be over, and we'll be getting ready for Outdoor Rama coming up.
Would not be.
Louie's heading to Simcoe. Boy.
Big plans.
Hopefully.
Big plans, little ice.
Little ice. For sure. Wish Louie good luck, guys. But hey, if you're not doing anything, we'll be down at Outdoor Rama. We'll be hanging out with some of the fishing guys. We'll probably be down talking with the guys at Skeeter Boats and all that fun stuff. So if you want to come down to Novi, we'll be down there. Otherwise, you can find us in the store by Lines.